Coach Hornibrook says she's coached many sisters, but part of what makes the Sergey sisters so special is how supportive they are of each other. The biggest difference between the Bombers playing home or away is the field. Here at Butterfield Stadium, the Bombers play on a grass field, but every opponent they travel to has a turf field. Thousands getting off the metro station, several metro stations. We waited for 6 trains just to get here. The energy here is insane. Despite offensive flaws, it's not all bad news for the Bombers. Their defensive unit has been able to keep their opponents to a relatively low scoring average, keeping Ithaca within reach of every game. The Ithaca baseball team played 12 games in March and April, but just one being here at Freeman Field, another in Syracuse, and the other 10 in either Virginia or California. So when you decide you want to be an actor, when you decide you want to be a singer, that's because that's what you're passionate about and that's what you love to do. And that's completely different than skyrocketing into fame for another reason. So if you want to be an actor, you want to be a musician, yes, fame can come with that territory and you kind of have to adjust to that, but I don't think that's what you sign up for, rather than a reality star who goes on a show and they become famous because of that, and then they're off-put by taking pictures with fans or doing events and whatnot, when it's kind of like, well, you went on The Bachelor, you went on Big Brother, you went on whatever show it was to find love, to win money, but that wasn't because that's what you were passionate about, because that's what you wanted your career to be. And I think it's completely different when it's someone like Chris Pratt and someone who really is just making a living doing what they love. I don't think that anybody wants to disappoint people, especially a celebrity disappointing fans, because your career is so heavily dependent on your fans. And I think there's some fear there that if you do disappoint your fans, what's going to happen to your career? But I get it. I get what he's saying. I mean, especially now with social media and paparazzi being even heavier than it has been in the past, I get that you do have to learn to say no to people. Otherwise, you're not going to get where you need to go. You're not going to be able to live your life. And every second of your life, you're going to be dedicating to other people. The first is criminal charges. So that relates to punishment. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I took a legal class once.
I took a legal class as well.
Really?
Well, yeah, communications in the courtroom. So
okay, and I took legal environment and business. So if we put our heads together, we can probably
naturally,
just crack
I'm sure we could pass the bar. Is what we're saying,
for
right?
sure. That is what we're saying. If someone is watching that, a 15-year-old is watching that who maybe was raped, is that going to deter them from getting help, from speaking out, saying, "I was raped, I want to press charges," or "I need help getting through this, I'm grieving"? Is that going to stop them because they're worried I'm going to get victim blamed? And I just think that it goes to show that one of the biggest things that people are saying is that shows and media and whatnot, they sensationalize things like suicide. And when we're talking about the changes they've made and how it's solely, at least in our minds, could be potentially solely for a second season and solely for shock factor and production value, that is when I start to agree with people, where you're sensationalizing suicide and you're sensationalizing these serious issues.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are connecting with it. A lot of people are connecting with Hannah, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. I think that when you connect with a character, you want to be like them. And that's what's scary, because when you're connecting with Hannah, someone who commits suicide, when you're relating to all of these things she's gone through, you might think suicide is the answer too. And I think that's the scariest part for me. I'm on the corner of Washington and 2nd, just about a block away from the official starting point of the Women's March on Washington, and thousands upon thousands of people have already come out ready to march. Now, they're going to start officially at the intersection of Independence Ave and 3rd Street Southwest. They're going to be marching their way down to Ellipse Park, just south of the White House. Now, many groups have signed on to be partners of the Women's March on Washington, one of them being Planned Parenthood, which Republicans have vowed to defund. Another organization sponsoring the march is Amnesty International, a human rights group, and in total over 200 groups have signed on as partners of this march. We begin tonight with what was a wild scene in Claremont's Opera House Square this afternoon, as a 2-car accident left one vehicle smashed into the city's historic Moody building. Police did not release the identity of the child or whether the child is related to McPhail. The investigation into the crash remains ongoing, and anyone who may have witnessed the incident is encouraged to call Vermont State Police at the number posted below. Turning to Upper Valley news now, an associate professor at Dartmouth College was one of 7 men arrested Friday on allegations they were involved in a sex trafficking ring in Rhode Island. Police say 44-year-old Stefan Alexander of Hanover was charged with procurement of sexual conduct for a fee after a sting operation focused on advertisements placed on Backpage.com.
Well, the Planned Parenthood on Claremont's Pleasant Street is now fully operational for the first time since the facility was severely damaged by a vandal back in October. While one car did flip on its roof, authorities say no one was seriously injured, though 3 people were transported to nearby New London Hospital as a precaution. Smith is accused of stealing 17 gift cards totaling more than $900, as well as an additional $200 in cash from mail addressed to Meriden residents. A local fire department responded to a scary scene in Keene this past weekend. Well, 4 Springfield, Vermont men, including 3 who were arrested by Chester police just last month, were arrested again earlier this week in connection with numerous burglaries earlier this fall. And you've also done a lot of youth outreach. I have a couple pictures to help jog your memory here as we talk about it that you can take a look at, but
sure.
Just talk to me about some of these moments.
Oh, so many memories.
How does being in law enforcement change you as a person? Does it change your outlook on life at all?
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I think another key to the game is going to be getting in the paint, using your bigs, just like they did in the last game against these two teams. Like I said, 44 points in the paint for Stevens, 46 for Ithaca, so we know that they both need to get it in the paint. But Ithaca has been struggling with that a little bit in some of their other games. It's drawing those fouls, getting to the free throw line. They haven't been getting to the free throw line as much as they need to be. So Ithaca had 49 bench points last time they played Elmira. Elmira had 0 bench points against Ithaca. What do you think about the depth of these teams and how that's going to affect today's matchup? I know something that we had been talking about throughout the first half as we were watching was pace and the pacing of both of these teams and how we felt like Ithaca had been rushing it toward the beginning, and now it seems like Elmira might be doing the same thing, pushing some opportunities that really aren't there, and that could be hurting them. So what do you think they need to do to adjust their pace going forward? Yeah, when you look at the two teams' stats side by side, really not much of a difference. The biggest difference being their records. Ithaca 24-3, 11-0 at home, so home advantage definitely big for them.
Absolutely.
RIT 19-8, but when you look at points and rebounds per game, they're really neck and neck. I think that goes hand in hand with what you were just saying before that about, they're shooting a lot of threes because they realized that they weren't able to get the ball in down low as much as they wanted, and when they did, it was just a wall there, and they're not fouling. Neither team is really fouling down low. That's why there haven't been many free throws. So both teams are really resorting to kicking it out, taking the three-point shots, taking the longer jumpers, and right now it's working for both teams. So I do think that's a strategy that both teams could stick with, and you mentioned the free throws. Ithaca missed 10 free throws in the very last minute of the Empire 8 Championship. They came out on top by just 3, but in a close game, we've said it before, we'll say it again, free throws are everything. So in a close game like this one, it's a 6-point game now. Who knows what the margin could be down the stretch with just a minute left? They're really going to have to focus on this free throws if they want to be the team that faces SUNY New Paltz tomorrow.
Definitely the main part of their success this season is their defense. As you mentioned, they've only let up 1 goal. That was against Wagner College. Now, being scored upon definitely puts a huge target on their back, so not a bad thing that they let up that 1 goal. A big part of their defensive success is goalie Kelsey Tierney. She has a 97% save rate. She's made 31 saves. She's definitely seen some diversity in the games she's had. She made 0 saves against Siena and St. Bonaventure, but yet 6 saves against Syracuse and Penn. Now, in these games where she's made 0 saves, it's not because they're facing weak opponents, but yet it's because of the defense that's there supporting Tierney as well.
Complete team.
Jesse, Alfred is number 6 in the conference right now. Ithaca is number 2 and Buffalo State is number 1. Buffalo State was absolutely the toughest competitor.
Standings aren't everything.
They're not everything, but they're a lot. They're
standings
number 6.
aren't everything.
Ithaca has only played,
they
aside from
everything.
Buffalo State, teams that are below the top 4 in
Erin,
the Empire 8.
Erin, besides for
I can't let this episode go by without talking about the girl I'm dressed as tonight, Maddie Ziegler. It's been rumored that the Dance Mom star may be removed from the series. She reportedly missed the first 2 competitions for Dance Mom Season 6 and is likely missing the filming for the 3rd episode. She allegedly hid more than $755,000. Miller is accused of using secret bank accounts to hide income she earned from Dance Mom's spin-offs, masterclass studio sessions, and merchandise sales. If convicted, she could face up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for each count, totaling up to $5 million. Despite the legal issues, Season 6 of Dance Moms is set to premiere in January, and I, for one, cannot wait to see all the drama unfold. The show premiered in 2003 and became a global phenomenon, expanding over the years to include not only traditional female models, but also women who are petite or plus-sized, as well as men. The series finale is set to air on December 4th.
you're on a TV show, and if you signed up for this TV show and it's been 7 seasons, 6 years,
Right.
you got to get used to it. And I mean, Abby went on to say, like, this is her livelihood, and they've destroyed her livelihood through this show. But at the same time, they've also made her livelihood. Like,
Absolutely.
yes, she was very successful before the show in her own dance world and in her own right, but this show has made her into a household name. I mean, this has exploded her career and the career of all of these girls as well. So to say that it destroyed her livelihood, I mean, you like to say it all the time. It's biting the hand that fed you. So it was all within a matter of Courtney leaves, bodyguard goes with her, they get to the club, they enter. It was very calculated and very thought out and just so to the exact minute of everything that happened. And so I think that's, everyone's like, well, how did she only have one security guard? And how did they get through security? And it's like, well, she doesn't, much to everyone's surprise, doesn't have 30 security guards with her everywhere she goes.
Right.
Carly, it's interesting you bring that up because I just want to interject real quick. And I also found a source that said that both North and Saint were actually in New York City safely. It actually was reported that North had just seen a matinee showing of Matilda on Broadway. So there's a couple different speculations about where the kids were, but all that we know 100% was that they were not with Kim in the hotel room. She was alone. The kids were safe, whether they were in Paris, whether they were home in New York. Doesn't really matter as long as we know they were not in the room. It just blows my mind that people can ask these types of questions and say these awful things and say that she was asking for it because she had $10 million or $11 million worth of jewelry in her apartment at the time, or that she deserved it because she's just a reality star. Or they're doing this for ratings and they won't be surprised when it happens on the season finale of the next episode or the next season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Well, life is more than that. Life is more than ratings. It's more than $11 million worth of jewelry. It's more than 2 cell phones. It's more than all of that. And I just wish that people would start to understand that. So obviously, it's no secret that the ups and downs have been in the public eye. I mean, it was on the aftermatch with you and Julia going through some struggles. It was on MTV's website. It was all over social media. Is it harder having your relationship be in the public eye and having the struggles as well as the ups be so public?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely hard having a relationship, put on blast.
There were clearly other people going after Julia, and we'll talk about John, we'll talk about Gio. Why did you feel so strongly that you needed to fight for her? Of course, we know you only had one competition win this season, which was the fabric matching BOB, but I think you only came in last in 2 competitions, so I think that's pretty impressive, Meg.
I mean, I had always said, I don't want to be the girl that comes last and everything. So.
Okay, who said? It is Attack of the Squirrels, and squirrels are running all over the place, scurrying around, and I'm about to have a panic attack.
Wait, I said this.
Yes! Now, you're saying that, you were very obvious about who you were working with, but I think it's actually interesting that I don't believe, you never really had an alliance. There was the Sixth Sense alliance, but you and James and Becky and Jackie, you guys didn't really have a solid alliance, but you guys were just such close friends that you knew that you had each other's back and you didn't necessarily need an alliance to show that.
Exactly.